Today we're going to be discussing unlocking student potential and empowering their career success through transferable skills. As we're getting started here, though, I would love to hear a little bit from you. If you wouldn't mind in the chat dropping your name, your institution, and the role that you play at your institution and the work that you're doing. It'd be great to know where we're connecting with folks from this morning or afternoon. While I'm waiting for a few folks to chat in, my name is Chelsea McHenry. I will be sharing with you this morning as a representative from LAPU. I am the Associate Director of Student Success here at LAPU, and I'm also a certified career counselor. My background is actually in career counseling, and my graduate work was in college counseling and student development, specifically focused in helping to support online adult learners in their career journeys. And so I am excited to share with you the work that we're doing here at LAPU and the things that we hope to do in the coming future. Definitely sharing from a place of real-time growth and experience as we continue to develop the resources that we have for our students here at LAPU. Yvonne, thanks for sharing. Yes, LAPU and Fortis College. All right, great. So welcome. Continue to drop your name in the channel, and I'll try to remind folks as they come in. It'd be great to, as I said, know where everyone's joining us from so that we can have that context as we all discuss from different types of roles and experiences here at LAPU and across the world even. So just a reminder, the session is being recorded. It probably shared that with you as you came in, but I know that it'll be accessible to you later if you would also like to review some things. We're going to cover a breadth of things today, but I'm going to start us off with some context about who LAPU is and specifically our students. I think that's helpful as we go into some of the resources that we're going to share and the ways that we've been developing resources for our students here at LAPU. The LAPU student is a little unique from the traditional college age student. They're all online learners and they're typically adult learners. The demographic of our students in the 2022 to 2023 academic year was that 44.9% of our students identified as Hispanic of any race. Additionally, 79.3% of our students are female. And an interesting fact is that 16.4% of our undergraduate students are Black or African American students, which the reason that's interesting is when you look at the CCCs, which is the California Community College System, they make up about 5.7% of the student population at the community college level. And at the CSUs, the California State Universities, they comprise about 4.6 of that population. So we have over double the population of our students identifying as Black or African American here at LAPU. Additionally, less than 2% of LAPU students are first-year students. So as I said, they're typically adult learners. They are in the different stages of their life. It may mean that our students are working full-time. It may mean that they are in that sandwich generation where they may be caring for young children, but also caring for elderly parents. Our students tend to have sometimes multiple jobs that they're working, or they work in a career that they are making some adjustments to and why they're coming back to school. Additionally, as LAPU, we are a faith-based organization and institution, and we teach from a Judeo-Christian perspective within our courses. However, not all of our students may identify as such, and that can create some unique conversations and spaces for our students to engage with the content of their coursework and the ways that we support them in helping to explore what it means to have a Christian perspective while also helping them to identify in the ways that they do as well. So that's a little bit of context about who our student is here at LAPU. So I kind of mentioned a little bit about this, but when we start talking about career services and the types of students that we may be working with in the career service space to help them step into their future roles or jobs. We talk about a few different levels that they could be in. They could be career starters. That is typically a younger student, someone who's not been in the professional world before in any form, whether it's even a tech job or a professional, office job. Either of those could be a career starter, that this would be their first time. That tends to be our students who are younger, people who haven't yet worked at that age. But then we also have career changers that we may be working with. These are typically students who are seeking to make a change in their industry or employment, typically a significant change where they may be employed in a certain area and are coming to school to learn the skills and the educational knowledge that they need to change into a different field entirely. For example, maybe they have been working as an office assistant at a factory job. And in that role, they have a lot of business skills and some, office management skills, but they're seeking to finish their bachelor's of health sciences degree because they're really interested in making that shift into the healthcare world and wanting to finish their degree so they have a leg up in that area, in that industry. And then additionally, there's the career advancer. So someone who has begun their career, enjoys the field maybe that they're working in, but has reached a point where they now are needing to complete a degree or take a different step to be able to advance their career any farther than they are, to continue to move up the ladder in management maybe, or to take on a management role. Potentially their field requires also some specific education or credentialing or skills that they would need to step into that type of a space. And so here at LAPU, most of our students fit in that career changers or career advancers. Sometimes we see some of our students who are in like the field of psychology, that they're wanting to be in a helping profession, or maybe they're going to become a teacher. Those students tend to be our career changers. They've been employed in a different way or in a different format, and they're switching into this new field. But then at LAPU, we also have a lot of students who are seeking to be those career advancers. They're stepping into a management position, or maybe they have been in some level in the healthcare field working directly with patients, and they're instead wanting to be more behind the scenes in a health sciences management type of role, or even stepping up in a leadership or business role, that they're completing this degree to be able to take those kinds of steps. And so we tend to focus mostly on those last two. As I said, very few of our students are actually career starters. So my question for you, if you can put in the chat, is how would you describe the students at your institution? Do they tend to be career starters or career changers or career advancers? If you could drop that in the chat, I'd appreciate that. You can see where we're all kind of coming from. You can even just put starter, changer, or advancer as you look. Starters, okay, great. And Les, what school are you coming to us from? What institution do you work with? Great. And so some of the things that we're going to talk about today, even though we at LAPU focus a lot on the career changers or advancers, the things that we're going to talk about applies to everyone, which is part of why it is a focus here for us at LAPU at this time. And okay, Yvonne saying career advancers at their institution, and okay, and Gary working with the adult programs. Yeah, career changers or advancers, exactly. Tends to be as you get older, you've had some sort of job or role that you are seeking to grow in, and that's why you've chosen to return to school or to go to school for the first time, right? So one of the things that we want to talk a little bit about is, why does career services matter? And there's a lot of research out there on very different topics. And I just want to talk about two areas that we are taking a focus on here at LAPU, and we're going to talk about why. And so one of the things that is shown is that students who begin career development tasks or conversations in the first year of their program or their first year in college are able to create competitive edge over their peers at the point of graduation. So our students who are more prepared in advance, I think we all can understand that mentality of our students who are active and proactive and actually doing some of their own work in this area are set to be more successful immediately after graduation than their peers who do not take those types of steps. And so part of our focus here at LAPU and what we're going to talk about is how are we building the structure for our students to have those conversations earlier in their program instead of waiting until the end or after they've even finished. Additionally, spaces for undergraduate students in underserved communities, so students who are part of an underserved or underrepresented community, which, as I said on the first slide, tends to be the LAPU students who are part of historically underrepresented and underserved populations. When spaces are provided for those undergraduate students to actually discuss their career goals, research shows that it promotes belonging for those students, that they see the pathway for themselves to achieve the goal that they have of why they came to school. And so our hope is to continue to develop and create those spaces for our students to begin discussing this early on. And like I said, these are just two really quick examples of why we think that career services matters and helps our students, not just while they're here at LAPU, although that is a really important piece of it, but also helps us to see their success after. Our alumni are employable and are getting the jobs that they want and are seeking that. And that is, as we all know, every institution's goal of why else are we doing this if we're not doing it to try to help promote our students' educational and career goals down the road. So what are some of our current focuses? I've mentioned kind of the research and who our students are, but I'm going to talk a little bit about what are we doing currently. And as I mentioned at the very beginning, this is a very real-time example of how we are trying to grow and develop. LAPU moves quickly. We move on, just like a lot of us, a small budget that we're trying to be good stewards of the finances that we have and to do it well for our students, provide the most resources to them at any given time. And we always are looking to change with the times and be able to provide more to them as new things come about. So one of the biggest things that we focus on here at LAPU, and which is part of the title of this session, is about transferable skills. A transferable skill would be defined as a skill that can be applied to many industries or many jobs in services that exist out there. It frequently has a bit of a Venn diagram between a transferable skill and a soft skill. A lot of those soft skills actually would be categorized as transferable skills. Soft skills themselves are usually defined as the non-technical skills for a role. And sometimes a transferable skill may be a little bit more technical. But generally speaking, the language around career services is much more using the language of transferable skill instead of soft skills. I think soft skills promotes, just by its language, this kind of false example of what it is that our students need or what is necessary. It seems like it's an optional thing because we don't want to appear soft. And I think that that's counter to the example of what we're talking about. Dr. Herman, who is on this webinar as well here, he's our Chief Academic Officer at LAPU. He shared with me an article, just a short article from Chronicle of Higher Ed that talked about how soft skills, particularly those of communication and things like that, are actually very necessary skills that we need people at all levels to be able to perform well, to have the most effective workspace. And so I think we often, when we use that term soft skills, we tend to opt out of seeing it as necessary. Or transferable skills creates this sense of need and also ability to use in many different forms. Part of why I think it is really beneficial for us here at LAPU, and hopefully for many of the schools that are listed in the chat as well, we tend to offer here in the United States a liberal arts degree, right? For those 4-year undergraduate programs, we're offering a liberal arts experience for our students. The skills that they're learning in the liberal arts experience are transferable skills. I don't know, especially with our adult learners, we have this kind of conversation frequently. Maybe you do as well. But I even think back to my own experience as a high schooler, thinking I'm never going to need to learn geometry. Why am I even taking this geometry class, right? And you may have students in one of your courses maybe if you're teaching a lower division class, especially that fits in that general core requirement classes, that your students as adult learners struggle to find the relevancy of what they're learning and connecting it to the future of their career and how they're doing that. And transferable skills really helps to highlight those skills that they're learning. They're learning those communication skills and developing them. They're learning leadership skills in a group project that they may be working on, and many other examples. That is the big thing that the liberal arts degree provides to our students, is these transferable skills that are often listed in the program learning outcomes that they may have in their curriculum as well. Additionally, here at LAPU, as I mentioned, we are growing our career services capacity and what we're able to offer our students. And so by focusing on things like transferable skills, something that fits the needs of most of our students that they need to be able to articulate by the time they graduate, we're able to serve the widest breadth of our student population by focusing first on transferable skills, building those resources for those students to be able to create the right documentation and information that they need and be able to carry it on into their career, while we also then build discipline-specific areas and focus down the road as we continue to grow and develop. So, some examples of transferable skills: problem solving, writing, time management, critical thinking, communication are just a few examples. I don't know if in the chat you could mention maybe a transferable skill that is already built into your curriculum or your program that you work with, or something that you're hoping that your students would take away from that would be considered a transferable skill. If you could go ahead and list those, it'd be great to see if you have any other examples that we didn't mention yet this morning or today. Digital literacy. Yes, it is a big one. It is especially in this day and age, being able to have digital literacy. And it's interesting as a discussion because digital literacy goes beyond just being able to use your mobile phone to send a text and things like that. Plenty of students are able to do that, but when you transfer it to the workplace or to an educational level of literacy, it takes some growth, and we have to actually pay attention to that. Time management, problem solving, writing. Yes, AI literacy. We're going to talk about that one today as well. I love that. Media literacy, that's a great one, especially with so much information being available out there. How do they have some critical thinking around even the media that is available to them? Leadership and followership. That is important, right? We need both types of leaders and followers in the workplace. Great examples. So, what does career services look like for us here at LAPU? So how are we taking this concept of transferable skills and actually putting them into practice for our students right now? So we also work with our alumni, so it's not just our students. We also provide career services for our alumni as well. We have an online career website that we have recently launched. So we have had a different version of it, but we have expanded the tools, and I'm going to talk about the new resources that are existing on this website on the next slide in more specifics. But this new career website is available to all of our students and all of our alumni at any point, and there are a vast amount of resources that we are able to continue developing. One of the biggest things that our focus is over this next year is student-directed resources. So what resources are we getting asked for by our students that we can create and provide to them? And additionally, what are we able to guide them to be able to successfully complete on their own? Part of that is this time is that we do not have the staffing capacity to have direct counseling hours with all of our students in regards to career services. So we want to do the most that we can for our students to be able to have an asynchronous experience with the work that they're doing around their career development. It doesn't mean that we don't have some capacity and we don't work with them individually, but in our hopes for creating content that's available to them, just like all of the rest of their experience at LAPU is able to be fully asynchronous, that they can log in whenever they want, 3 in the morning, and complete their class successfully. Our hope is that our career services would equally be as accessible to them, that they would not need to have the barrier of having an individual staff member that they need to connect with to be able to be successful at this point. So that is our goal over this next year, is to continue to develop the student-directed resources that we're able to offer them so that they can successfully do these things. The next thing that we are working on is to embed career services into our curriculum. And I'm going to talk again about some specific examples. And we also are working to develop our AI resources that we are sharing with our students. LAPU has a value of believing that we should be embracing the AI world and doing so ethically and with skill and knowledge. I've heard a couple of quotes attributed to different folks, but it's not going to be the AI, AI that is going to replace most of the workforce. It's going to be those who know how to use AI that are going to set themselves apart from you in the career world if we're not aware of what's going on or how to utilize AI. And it can be intimidating to a lot of our students and our staff and faculty. So we're going to talk a little bit about what we're currently doing and maybe some ideas that you may have of how you're already doing this or trying to at your institution as well. So I mentioned our career services online website. So we refer to it as Career Services Management, or CSM. And I'm going to highlight just a couple of the big picture things that are new to us at LAPU that we did not have prior to this website. One of the biggest things is we have some career exploration assessments available to our students. So our students are able to go in and take some interest builder and various assessments around career services. The Strengths Finder has always been a part of our I guess the footprint of who we are as LAPU and things that we value in regards to a strengths mindset and a growth mindset as well. But we have this career exploration that allows them to connect directly with some additional resources, such as the ONET Online, which is part of the Bureau of Labor and Statistics website on outlooks for future programs and careers that exist out there, and allows them to see like what education they need to be able to be a part of those careers, and even what the forecast is for how many people will be hired in that field in the coming years and things like that. So the career exploration piece is built into the career services management, including those assessments. Additionally, there's an ability to create pathways. So our hope with these pathways is that we will continue to build more and more of them, but they allow us to tailor an experience for our students around the career services journey that we would want them to have. So we're able to create a pathway, for example, for our first year experience, our first year students, those students who we know may be a part of that underrepresented population. How do we create tasks for them to begin discussing their career in a meaningful way and tying it to the work that they're doing in the classroom? And so these pathways that have like various tasks associated with them, or things that they can have to like answer, like a quiz or a poll, those kinds of things. So we're continuing to try to build those out over the coming years, or this year. A resume builder is a big one for us. We know that a lot of institutions, the career services that they provide, the basic service that's most common at most institutions is a resume review and a cover letter review. But those are two of the top ones, and the third one is a mock interview, and we're going to talk about that as well. But the resume builder actually allows us to create templates and examples for students to follow along and be able to create their own profile, while then taking that profile that they complete that looks a little bit like a LinkedIn profile and translate it into a resume that fits their specific needs, including creating tailored examples depending on the program that they may be in or the type of industry that they're seeking to go into. And so we're able to build that into the experience right there. And additionally, they have an extensive job board available to them where they're able to immediately on the website apply for jobs that have been curated from different sources, some of whom may choose to work directly with LAPU as an institution, others that would be sent from, curated from Indeed or Monster.com, and some of those examples, and pulled into the website. And additionally, with our CSM service provider, the vendor has their own grouping of employers who are interested in working with students. And so they can have anywhere from, hundreds to thousands of jobs per week available to them, depending on their interest, to be able to apply for. So those were some of our big selling points for us in this year of what we were trying to seek when we launched our new website. So I mentioned that we are also seeking to develop our curriculum. This has been a big partnership. Our faculty and our digital learning team are always very interested in working together and partnering well together to support from both the staff side to the student experience side. And so we're trying to be intentional in a few of the conversations that we're having this year. And I listed a few examples we're working on now and trying to build some discipline specific. But each of these are actually examples of how we are trying to build some transferable skills into the curriculum, or actually not even build them in, but identify them for the student. Because sometimes being explicit in what it is that we're trying to do really helps our students to kind of acknowledge, oh, I see the benefit and the value here that I'm gaining. So for example, in our COM 105, a public communications program, which is, course, which I think is a common course that a lot of institutions have, some sort of public speaking or public communication course. We are building in an example of mock interviews and having some discussions with the assistant dean that oversees this course and also our subject matter expert who's developing some of this curriculum. We identified that mock interviews are a great example of something that our students are always going to need to do in their career. They're going to be a part of panel interviews and conversations, and that is a perfect example of public speaking. Oftentimes, our students don't like public speaking. They get nervous about them, right? And so they also think, well, I'm never going to need to be a presenter in my job, in my role. And so we definitely think that this is a transferable skill of needing to be able to articulate your own experience in a mock interview or in a panel interview setting. And so we've created some mock interviews with some very specific questions, asking them to articulate specifically the transferable skills that they have. And so that is being built into our course, and we're using the functionality that lives within our career services management tool to actually produce those videos. They're also being exposed to that software and the very first year usually of their program, because COM 105 tends to be a class that our students take within the first year that they're here. So they're getting exposed to the career resources that are available to them within that first year. Additionally, oh, that's a great question, Yvonne. We're going to talk about AI interviews in just a minute, actually. The ISTU 101, I would say that this is an example of maybe your school doesn't have this type of success in the university is what we call the course. But this course would be a first year experience class. So if your institution offers a first class for their students or a seminar of some sort, that is what this class is for us. Most of our students take it at the undergraduate level in the very first session that they are here at LAPU. And it is built into the course that they would actually work through the career assessment and career exploration piece that I mentioned on the previous slide. So they're also exposed to the website in the very first class, and they're asked in their discussion forum to actually talk through the results that they received and the exploration that they saw in the online and the ONET online exploration that they did, to the outcomes or the outlook of the industries that they're interested in. So it gets them talking and seeing what some of their peers may be interested as well. And it's a great class for that because it's every student. So students in different programs and different majors are in there and discussing their career goals and how the career assessment ties to the career goals that they did. And then a third one, this one's a little more specific to a discipline that we have here at LAPU, which is our Bachelor of Arts in Applied Psychology. This BAP program, we are actually working with our full-time faculty member, Shannon Hunt, who does an amazing job of supporting these students. And we are trying to, at this time, take some of the content that she regularly works through with her students that are in this program and actually put it into resources that students have available to them from day one in that program, and even try to expand and tie some of the resources that she offers to other career resources. One of the biggest questions that we get from students in this program that we're starting with answering is, what do I do with this degree afterwards? And maybe you get that question sometimes too. What am I going to do with this? Like I'm learning a lot. What kind of job can I have? Right? And that's part of what we hope to answer with that career assessment piece. But particularly in applied psychology, there are many different routes that a student could take. And so we have identified some of the main areas that our students go into post undergrad with us in that program, and are working to kind of highlight the ways that they could explore the transferable skills that they're learning, the ones that they enjoy doing, because that is often key, right? We feel more connected and have that sense of calling when we can enjoy the work that we're doing, not just the outcomes maybe of the work that we do. And so we're working to develop some career pathways for these students in the BAT program so that they can begin exploring that question in Psych 105 instead of when they're finishing in Psych 495, right? We're trying to help them feel like they have some confidence in their next steps early on in their career so they can be focused on that. Do you get guidance from, we are still, that's a good question. Guidance from employers in our region. We are still working to develop that. A lot of our faculty are actually experts in the field or actively working in the field that they are teaching in the discipline. And so we do at least have that experience of gaining their expertise and knowledge and being able to communicate with them. And I think that a few of our programs have some, the right word might be a colloquium or not a colloquium, a consortium of individuals from that industry that meet semi-frequently, once a quarter, maybe even less frequently, twice a year, to discuss some of those aspects of it as well, because it is important and it is an area that I think we're going to continue developing in future years that I'll talk about. Good question. Advisory councils. Thank you. That's the word I was looking for. Not consortiums, advisory councils. Okay. I want to talk then a little bit about AI resources. And Yvonne just asked a question a few minutes ago about AI mock interviews. And I actually am a fan. I think that they can be really helpful for students because in my experience of working with career students seeking to develop their career, it helps them get over their nerves. They don't like it, but it really helps them to develop their speaking skills in a way that they are able to step into those actual interviews with confidence. And so we're trying to use AI in a few different ways here at LAPU. There's more than just what I'm talking about. This is just specifically how we are using AI right now with our students in regards to career services. Our goal this year is to continue creating additional prompts for our students. So being able to have resources available, because I think so many people are intimidated because you can do anything with AI. It feels like, well, where do I even begin? And so part of our goal is to have the prompts already written for the majority of some of these areas that our students could maybe tweak them or change them to meet their specific discipline or needs, but they have a starting place. And so our goal is to help them create prompts around resume reviews. So being able to use something like ChatGPT or Gemini to be able to have their resume reviewed and tighten up the bullet points or make sure that it's aligned with various things. Drafting a cover letter is always a great example of how to start, where they can, we tell them, a few basic things that you might want to include in your cover letter. So just write words about yourself in this section and then ask ChatGPT to produce a cover letter based off of that content. And so we try to provide them a very step-by-step example of a prompt they could fill in and actually complete. We also help them to identify ways that they could match their resume with a job posting that exists out there. So for example, they may take the job posting that they found that they think they want to apply for, put it into ChatGPT, take their resume and ask the prompting question of, if I want to apply for this job, what skills am I missing in my resume that I need to identify for this role? And so then helping them to kind of see the gaps in their resume for the job posting and help build their confidence that maybe a lot of the skills that they already have are available there for them. And in fact, we're consistently working with our female students to develop this because research shows that women are much less likely to apply for a role if they don't feel like they match the majority of the skills listed in the job posting. However, men will apply for a role much faster and much sooner when they don't meet all of the needs, assuming that they can then grow in the competency. So there's a little bit of that difference of working with our students. And as we mentioned, over 79% of our student population identifies as female here at LAPU. And so supporting their growth and overcoming some imposter syndrome and the jobs that they apply for is part of what we hope to help them identify and bridge the gap for in regards to their resume. Additionally, articulating the PLOs, the program learning outcomes, or even the transferable skills into their career documents. So whether they take a snap of their syllabus that tells them the things they were supposed to have learned in the class that they just took, and asking ChatGPT to help them draft a bullet point of how they did that into their actual resume or a document, update their cover letter, those kinds of things. We don't currently have our own version of the AI mock interviews. Our mock interviews that we offer is allowing them to receive feedback from an actual person. But what we do recommend that our students use, especially students who are really nervous and haven't interviewed maybe in a long time, Google has a free version of a AI interview system called Interview Warm-Up. I definitely recommend that students take it for what it is, right? So as we are all learning with AI, sometimes AI will fill in the gaps. When it doesn't know the answer, it will sometimes make up the answer, right? That goes for everything that we may put into an AI system. But what I encourage our students to do is to use the interview warm-up as a baseline for themselves. It allows them to see themselves being interviewed or in the video content, watch it back, hear for themselves the mistakes they may make, and it also does give feedback. Now, interview warm-up has a few examples. It's mostly focused in the areas that Google would be most interested in, around some tech roles or project management, those kinds of things. And a lot of our students aren't entering into that space, but it does just have a general interview warm-up that they can complete a few of the basic questions about telling them about themselves and being able to explain their desire for having the role that they're applying for and those kinds of things. And so I like it just because it gets our students practicing, and they can practice as much as they want, as we sometimes have students who really do want to practice significantly. And then one other thing in ways that we are trying to support our students' use of AI is we have accessibility for all of our students to access Gemini AI, which is Google's version of essentially ChatGPT that they have access to through their G Suite account that we have here at LAPU. And so we encourage them that if they don't have a ChatGPT or they've never been exposed to it, that these prompts that they're writing and doing, that they could use Gemini to actually create that space for themselves and gain some exposure in what they're doing through that work. So, in thinking about that, I know somebody had mentioned earlier in the chat that we're using some example of maybe AI or understanding that AI literacy would be an important thing for their students to learn. So my question for you right now is, are you using AI in your program or in your curriculum or course in any way right now? And if so, are you able to share maybe a tip or an idea or even something that you may have been inspired by in the ways that we are currently trying to use it for career services here at LAPU? I'll pause for just a minute to see if anybody has some ideas. Anybody using it? Thinking about how you can use it at least? I think one of the biggest things for us, the game changer, has been the conversation around the prompts that we are helping our students to create. I know for myself, that's where I can get intimidated. And so creating these essentially templates for our students around career services is a good starting place for them in regards to the work that they're doing to develop their own career and take some ownership. Feels very intimidating for them, especially when they really want to improve their situation and their career. It feels there's a lot of emotion often tied to it for our students. And so being able to help them feel like they have the resources and they already have the knowledge and they're able to use something like an AI feature through Gemini or ChatGPT to help them put together the words that they feel confident in is a great starting place for our students. We're just getting into AI and we're seeing students, yes, that is definitely a challenge from the faculty perspective of using AI to draft or write their papers, right? And so having conversations around that is, I think, an important piece. And at LAPU, we have also definitely struggled with this, and our academics team has taken some stances and has had conversations about how do our faculty embrace it, but also what do we look out for in regards to how our students are ethically using AI, right? Yes, students at LAP, we have a fantastic chatbot that is in our courses called Spark. It is an AI chatbot that has content developed into it or put into it that includes things like their syllabus and the text materials. And so they're able to engage with it as though it were a peer, a really intelligent and knowledgeable peer in their classroom, or a TA even, and being able to ask questions while not also cheating. We as staff and faculty have gotten the opportunity to sometimes test it and see if we can trip it up into giving us the answer. And it's really been great to see the ways that it encourages students to find the information on their own while also providing context for them when they really do have questions. It's really good. And you're teaching how to use ChatGPT. That's great. Okay, we're gonna go on to the next thing. So I've talked a lot about what we're currently working to do in this current year and what we've been building towards over the past few years. And so I want to talk a little bit about what future of LAPU Career Services looks like and what our hopes are in regards to some of this for our goals for the future. It fits a lot with some of the questions that were asked, I think, as well. One of the things that we're really excited about is we have been awarded a Developing Hispanic Serving Institutions grant to serve our students, and built into this grant, it's a 5-year grant that has focus on helping our students to have a sense of belonging, especially our students who belong to underrepresented or underserved population. And so some of the outcomes are around student persistence and their success, and then some of the ways that we're going to have some inputs and actually try to strive towards that are focused in regards to career services and some of the content that I talked about at the beginning around belonging by creating spaces for our students to discuss their career goals. And so those things include providing direct counseling services to our students regarding career services specifically. And so, as I mentioned, right now we don't have the staffing capacity, but our hope is to actually have career counseling hours available to our students more consistently. Additionally, developing and launching a peer mentorship program in which our students will be able to share their success. It will usually be an upperclassman or upper division student who is paired with a lower division student who is new to the university and maybe new to university in general. And so partnering them to have discussions about how they've been successful in programs before and how to help continue their growth towards the career that they have. So we're excited about creating those spaces for our students to be able to discuss with their peers. Additionally, developing discipline-specific pathways. So we've talked about some ways that we are already working on that, but eventually our hope is that each of our programs would have a more structured career pathway that allows our students to kind of follow along year by year in their program to create to help underpin the PLOs that are part of the program that they're in, the program learning outcomes. So while they're learning each of these things in different courses, how are they connecting the dots throughout the whole program, weaving that thread of success throughout by creating these discipline-specific experiences. And it will take a lot of knowledge and experience from various folks in the academics field and also those who are out in the workplace to be able to help to get them right for each of our students and the types of programs that they want to, or careers that they'll be going into. Additionally, we'll be continuing to develop our lower division career resources. I mentioned 2 classes, but we also have at least 2 additional courses that we will be building some additional resources in, including telling some student success stories, recording some previous students who were successful in the course and having their story shared with those who come after them to take the course and being able to help them develop it. Additionally, we are going to be focusing a bit on employer relations. So this is separate from the DHSI grant. The DHSI grant is going to be, as I said, a 5-year program that we're going to be developing out and then maintaining after those 5 years has been completed. So we're going to be developing these resources to be sustained by the university. But we'll be focusing on employer relations. And that can look a little bit different. Someone was asking about that, I think a little bit earlier, of how we're connected. And our goal is to continue to develop the Rolodex of who we are working with as LAPU. Being able to have employers that we know want to work with LAPU students specifically, having contacts at these locations, developing additional partnerships. We already have some, but continuing to expand those and getting that networking skill in the hands of our students. And that may include also launching events. As I mentioned, we're fully online. So how are we going to continue to do online services, but also host meaningful events that help produce results for our students in regards to potential job opportunities and networking opportunities that exist through potentially virtual career fairs, networking events, and other things that we'll be doing. And additionally, we want to have alumni engagement as a part of that, of helping continue to tell the story of success of what they did with their career and coming back to support those who are at LAPU currently. We will not have a peer tutoring program, at least not built into this portion of what it is that we are offering. This is strictly focused in regards to the career services, but also like peer mentorship rather than necessarily peer tutoring. We'll continue to offer our tutoring services through tutor.com, which currently is the space where our students can gain additional career resume review and feedback through the vendor that we use and provide to our students. We provide up to 4 hours per semester for free for them of those tutoring hours that they can receive. So I am curious if you have any takeaways before we jump into a bit of a Q&A time. Maybe if you do have a takeaway, feel free to just share it. Or if maybe you've thought of an idea of how you could explicitly tie an activity or an assignment that you're already doing in your class or your program to a transferable skill. Like, how are you directly telling your students and connecting the dots for them that these are transferable skills? If you have any ideas of the ways that you could build that kind of an activity, maybe drop it in the chat. Yeah, that is definitely, it is a challenge. They only have so many positions available, right, as employers, and there's a lot of individuals out there looking for work, right, and depending on the season and time. And so I think that that's part of our hope, is helping our students set themselves apart early on so that they're able to articulate the career that they want and seek the career that they want. But you're right, employers, it can be a challenge to build those relationships because we're not the only school contacting them or wanting their interest or engagement with them. You're definitely correct. Any ideas that you may have of something that you can enact after this session? And if not, I am happy to take any additional questions that anyone may have. We at LAPU, our logo for career services is this this gear vibe. We know a lot of institutions or career services use the growth concept, where they are, a tree sprouting and things like that. We went with a gear because we do feel that our students are constantly moving and changing, just like a gear does in the system, and that they can move upwards in the way that they want, and then be able to connect to the space that they want to go in their own journey. And so we're kind of using that as our image for how we're supporting our students. Are there any questions though? Questions for me? Questions about something we talked about in general about career services or online career services and how we're seeking to develop those and work with them, AI, any of those things? Yes, courses have clear descriptions, because again, if we don't help our students make that connection, they often won't themselves. And so I think being able to just be upfront about what our goals are in regards to their career relevance is part of how they start to internalize the skills that they are learning in the program that they're in, to be able to speak to those skills when they step into the career field. Finding new ways. Yeah, but yes. How can employers partner with our graduates other than just hiring them? That's an excellent question and point. And um, I think it's a thing that is lost in the translation of other opportunities that our students could have beyond that. It's a good point. Any questions or anything else? Comments? Totally fine with comments too. Stay on for just another minute or two. I will say one of the things that's been really helpful at our organization is the way that we work and partner with academics in our digital learning solutions team to build the content of our programs. We do have that ability to really make some great ties between our student success side, the side that I work in, and academics by partnering together and being able to have the experience of what our students are asking us on the student success side and pairing that with what they're asking in their classes, and how do we build those bridges together around their career success. And thankfully our teams are really responsive to that. Most effective ways to communicate transferable skills on a resume. There's a few different methods that I like to look at. There are different examples and types of resumes that exist out there, but one of the most common things I think is a benefit to students who are career changers and advancers over an old version of resumes is so many of the resumes now are having a summary section instead of an objective. The difference of the objective was always the objectives were always kind of wasted space on a resume, honestly. It was like, I intend to work in this field. Well, great, that's nice. Whereas summary is an opportunity I tell students to expand upon a piece that they didn't get to talk about in their cover letter, to be able to take a transferable skill that they have and be able to draft out who they actually are as an employer and employee in a way that you may not always see in the bullet points down below on their resume and the experience that they've had. And then I also like, one of the things that is now common on resumes is having a skills section. And those skills sections, I think it's great to put some of the very specific industry technical skills that you may need to do the job, but it is also your space to highlight the transferable skills that you have. So if you're putting that you have leadership skills, then down below you can have your bullet points focused a little bit differently. They can be focused on the number of people maybe that you oversee, or it could be focused on the more like quantitative pieces, where up above, if you highlight the skills that you would consider to be transferable skills, the goal is that those would be really obvious to someone who's looking at their resume, especially when it comes to the interview time. My hope is that they would get asked the random question of, can you explain to me what it is when you say that you have communication skills? Can you give me an example of that? And being given the opportunity for them to expand beyond the resume, but giving them the opportunity to highlight it differently than they normally would by having something quantitative below in the bullet point. So I hope that's a helpful piece that I really think that transferable skills is. Gary, thank you, yes, for attending. I think that that's great. We're just going to wrap up here in maybe another minute or two. So if you have another question for me, please drop it in. You're welcome to reach out to us here at LAPU too to discuss further. I think it's great to continue to have these conversations. So feel free to connect with our organization, and I can definitely be you can be directed to me. I should have put my information on the slide, but if you reach out, and someone can connect you with me specifically. All right. I don't know if we're going to have any other questions. I really appreciate your time and your attention and for joining us today. I hope that it was helpful to understand how we're trying to serve the widest breadth of our students that are seeking to be a career changer or advancer by helping them to learn these transferable skills and how they can actually set them apart. So I hope that you're able to take something away and maybe implement some things into your own work that you're doing. Thank you so much, and I hope that you have a really great rest of your day.